his last few movies, Wes Anderson has relied heavily on his original scores, but in his early films, Anderson was a master of the needle drop. Anderson has used the Rolling Stones in his films almost as much as Martin Scorsese. Whether he played a Who song to underscore an increasingly absurd revenge montage, or played an Elliott Smith song to underscore a devastating suicide attempt, Anderson always picked the perfect track to pair with each scene, using music to enhance the emotions of the situation. When the climactic heist in Bottle Rocket goes horribly awry, Dignan offers to take the fall. He knows he fucked up and this whole mess is his fault, so he takes the cops on a wild goose chase to give his friends a chance to escape. It's the first genuinely good and selfless thing he's done the whole movie, and it's underscored beautifully by the Rolling Stones' 2000 Man. At first, the song matches the energy of the chase and the triumph of Dignan's sacrifice, but then it creates a hilarious juxtaposition as the cops catch Dignan at a dead end and start beating the shit out of him, and the lively rock track keeps playing.
I said, get your ass the hell off of my boat!
Wes Anderson isn't known for his action scenes, but he's directed some great ones. Midway through The Life Aquatic, when Steve's boat is invaded by a band of pirates, it's initially set up as a really tense sequence. But then Anderson flips that tension on its head and switches to a silly slapstick tone when Steve steals one of the pirates' guns and goes on a shooting spree. On his hilarious one-liner, "Get your asses the hell off my boat," the opening guitar riff of the Stooges' Search and Destroy blares onto the soundtrack. Iggy and co. provide the perfect rock and rollin' backing track for Steve's triumphant stand against the pirates.
C'est le temps de l'amour, le temps des copains et de l'aventure.
My French is terrible, so forgive my butchered pronunciation, but Susie plays Temps De L'amour on her record player while she and Sam are enjoying each other's company at their beach hideout in Moonrise Kingdom. This hidden beach is a romantic paradise for the brief time that Sam and Susie run away there before the grown-ups catch up to them. Sam and Susie dance to the song in the uniquely awful way that kids dance, before embracing for their first kiss. The English translation of the song's lyrics perfectly sums up this coming-of-age adventure story about the joys of first love. It's the time of love, the time of friendship, and of adventure. When Margot steps off her bus and Richie sees her again, his forbidden feelings of romantic love for his adopted sister come rushing back. The surrounding noise quiets down to dead silence and Nico's These Days kicks in on the soundtrack. This song gives you an appropriately warm and fuzzy feeling as Margot walks towards Richie in slow motion and we see a smile come across his face for the first time. The soft vocals and cozy orchestrations encapsulate Richie's confusing but powerful romantic feelings. I talked about this needle drop in my Rushmore video, but I'll briefly reiterate the points I made there. The revenge montage in Rushmore, with Max and Bloom escalating their petty feud as they exact worse and worse acts of vengeance against each other, is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. The rock and roll rhythm of The Who's A Quick One While He's Away complements the anarchic quality of Bloom running over Max's bike and Max cutting Bloom's brakes. Plus, there's a hilarious irony in the words "you are forgiven" being repeated over and over on images of Max and Bloom steadfastly refusing to forgive each other.
You are forgiven. You are forgiven.
Should I try to hide the way I feel inside my heart for you?
After Ned's untimely death in The Life Aquatic, The Way I Feel Inside by the Zombies kicks in on the soundtrack. Ned's funeral plays out in near silence as Anderson lets the song's vocals do the talking. The Way I Feel Inside suits the mood of the scene perfectly. It's slow, somber, and slightly haunting. Ned is one of the sweetest, purest, most lovable characters in Anderson's rogues gallery, so naturally his death is one of the saddest moments in the Anderson oeuvre. When I saw The Life Aquatic on a big screen about a year ago, I could hear audible sobbing from the crowd. It's a devastating loss, and the Zombies song goes a long way towards making those emotions land.
If I feel that I could be certain, then I would say the things I want to say tonight.
From the Beach Boys to the Rolling Stones, there are a ton of great needle drops in Fantastic Mr. Fox, but arguably the best is saved until last. After defeating Bogus Bunsen Bean and relocating his friends and family to a peaceful underground community, Mr. Fox finally lives up to his self-aggrandized persona as the quote-unquote Fantastic Mr. Fox, and he has one last trick up his sleeve. He takes his family through a hidden entrance to a supermarket where they can enjoy all the squab and produce they want. But before tucking in, they all have a dance set to the Bobby Fuller 4's Let Her Dance. Aside from being a suitably upbeat note to end the film on, it also complements Mr. Fox's growth as a husband. He's finally taking his wife into consideration, and he's become someone she can trust and rely on. I'm a bit biased towards the soundtrack of the Darjeeling Limited because the Kinks are my favourite band and Anderson uses 3 of their songs in this movie.
This time tomorrow, I know how these powerful men got the feeling this power, the power is hell.
This Time Tomorrow gets the soundtrack off to a great start, and Power Man captures the catharsis of the Whitman brothers finally letting go of their literal baggage. But my favourite use of a Kinks song in this film is Strangers, as Francis, Jack and Pete all head to the funeral of a little boy they failed to save. The melancholic mood of the song ties in perfectly with the melancholy of these 3 grieving brothers facing the unspeakable horror of a child's untimely death.
I laughed at all his words. I thought he was a bitter man. He spoke of women's ways.
This is another needle drop I discussed in my Rushmore video, so I'll just briefly reiterate what I said. The Faces Ooh La La plays over the final scene of Rushmore as Max Fisher and Miss Cross join the rest of the cast on the dance floor. Ooh La La is all about an old man looking back on the naivety of his younger years and all the lessons he had to learn the hard way. This is what Max has gone through throughout the movie as he's naively pursued a romantic relationship with an adult woman and gotten his heart broken time and time again. He probably wishes he knew what he knows now when he was younger. Starálfur by Sigur Rós, which I'm sure I'm mispronouncing, plays over the emotional climactic sequence of The Life Aquatic, as Steve and what's left of his crew take a little submersible down to finally confront the jaguar shark that ate his best friend. Throughout the whole film, he planned to blow the shark up to avenge his friend, but when he comes face to face with it, he sees its beauty. The grief over losing Esteban and the grief over losing Ned and the depression he feels that his marriage is on the rocks and his popularity has taken a nosedive and life has passed him by, hits him all at once and he erupts in a huge outburst of emotion as he's embraced by everyone around him. The Life Aquatic is all about how the sadness won't go away, so you need to figure out a way to cope with it and embrace the people who make it easier to deal with. And the emotional orchestrations of Starálfur, again I'm probably pronouncing that horribly, capture that sadness perfectly. With this music on the soundtrack, it's hard not to join Steve as a blubbering, teary-eyed mess.
Going to kill myself tomorrow.
Easily the most heartbreaking scene in the Royal Tenenbaums, and maybe the most heartbreaking scene from Anderson's entire filmography, is when Richie attempts suicide. Richie has been in love with his adopted sister Margot since he was a kid, and when a private investigator gives him a rundown of her entire romantic history and he realizes she'll be with pretty much anyone but him, he decides there's no point in living anymore. He shaves off the beard and the long hair he's been hiding behind before taking the blade out of the razor and slitting his wrists, as his whole life, particularly the key moments with Margot, flashes before his eyes. This scene would already be devastating without music, but Elliott Smith's needle in the hay really hammers home the despair. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked the video. Remember to like and subscribe and click on the little bell. And also seize the day and call your mom and be kind to yourself.